The war room was built to scare enemies. Its ceiling was too high, its walls too wide, and its floor made of black stone taken from conquered worlds. Lights floated in the air, cold and white, shining down on a single figure standing at the center. The human stood alone. No armor covered his body. No weapon rested in his hands. No shield hummed around him. His wrists were bare. His clothes were simple and gray. Even his boots had been scanned, cut open, checked for hidden tools. They had taken everything around him. The alien commanders sat in a wide circle. 12 species, 12 worlds. Each one powerful. Each one armed. Their chairs were raised, placed higher than the floor, so they could look down on him. This was not an accident. The lead commander leaned forward. His skin was dark blue, his eyes sharp and unblinking. Metal lines ran across his face, signs of rank and victory. "The war is over," the commander said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Humanity has lost." Words were meant to break the human. They did not. The human did not move. He did not shout. He did not beg. He simply stood, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes calm. He looked at the commander, then slowly at the others, as if he were studying a room instead of facing execution. Some of the aliens shifted in their seats. This was not how humans were supposed to act. "You were brought here," the commander continued, "to hear the final terms. Your fleets are retreating. Your worlds are surrounded. After this meeting, you will be ended. You are unarmed, alone, and powerless." The human nodded once, as if listening to a report. "Understood," he said. His voice was steady, clear, not weak. One of the alien officers laughed. A short, sharp sound. "He accepts it," the officer said. Finally, the human turned his head slightly toward the sound. His eyes met the officer's for a brief moment. Then he looked away. That small movement sent a quiet ripple through the room. Several commanders leaned closer, watching him more carefully now. The lead commander frowned. "You have nothing to say?" he asked. "No last message for your people? No protest?" The human was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. "Yes," he said. "I have one question." The room went still. Questions were not expected. Humans usually use their final moments to beg, threaten, or curse. A question was. Strange, the commander raised one clawed hand. "Speak," he said. "It will change nothing." The human lifted his head slightly. His eyes moved around the circle again, slow and careful. "Who is guarding your supply routes right now?" he asked. The question hung in the air. Several commanders looked at each other. One of them made a clicking sound, confused. "Why would that matter?" another asked. The lead commander narrowed his eyes. "Answer him," he said. "Let him hear how complete his defeat is," an officer spoke. "Our eastern fleets, the 9th and 12th Armadas," the human nodded, "and the western routes?" he asked. "The 5th Armada," another commander replied, irritated. The human took a slow breath. He seemed calmer now, almost relaxed. "And how long," he asked, "have the Kethari and the Vorin been sharing command authority?" That question changed the room. A low sound passed through the circle. Some commanders stiffened. Others looked sharply at their neighbors. "That is internal coalition structure," the lead commander said. "You do not need it matters," the human said gently. He was not loud. He did not interrupt with force. He simply spoke, and somehow the room listened. "Because the Cathari do not trust the Vorin," the human continued, "and the Vorin believe the supply data they are receiving is incomplete." Silence fell again. The officer who had laughed earlier shifted uncomfortably. "You are guessing?" the lead commander said. That the human smiled. It was not a wide smile. Not proud. Not cruel. It was the smile of someone who had just confirmed a thought. "I am observing," he said. "You see, you took away my weapons. You took away my tools. You even took away my armor." He looked down at his empty hands. "But you did not take away what I already knew." The lights above hummed softly. The air felt heavier now. One of the commanders leaned toward another and whispered, but the human heard it anyway. The human lifted his eyes again. "You invited me here to watch the end of a war," he said. "But wars do not end when weapons are taken away." Looked directly at the lead commander. "They end when people stop believing they can win." The commander opened his mouth to respond, but for the first time since the human had entered the room, he hesitated because the human was still unarmed, still alone, and somehow the room no longer felt like it belonged to the aliens. Far away, across the stars, fleets were moving. Messages were traveling. Decisions were being made. The human knew this, and the aliens did not. They had taken away every weapon, and the war was about to end anyway. Long before the human stood unarmed in the alien war room, the war had already changed him. It had changed all of them. Humanity did not begin the war with anger. It began with confusion. The first alien ships appeared without warning. They did not speak. They did not explain. They moved into human space like a storm and opened fire. Colonies burned. Stations went dark. Millions died before humanity even understood that the attack was real. Humans fought back with what they had. At first, it was not enough. Alien weapons were stronger. Their ships were faster. Their shields could turn aside human fire. In early battles, human fleets were crushed in minutes. Entire task forces vanished from sensors like they had never existed. Many alien commanders laughed then. They called humans fragile, too emotional, too slow to learn. They were wrong. But it took time to prove it. Humans learned by losing. They watched how alien fleets moved. They listened to intercepted signals. They studied patterns. Humans noticed that alien commanders followed rules, rigid rules. They attacked in expected ways. They protected what they believed was important and ignored what they thought was weak. Humans began to adapt. They changed formations. They used old ships and new roles. They sacrificed ground to save time. They spread their forces thin, then struck where aliens felt safe. The war slowed. It did not stop. But it stopped being easy. Years passed. Worlds were lost and taken back. Some human systems fell forever. Others held through sheer stubborn effort. Every victory came at a terrible cost. In the middle of that chaos, one human officer began to stand out. His name was Elias Ward. He was not the strongest. He was not the loudest. He did not inspire with speeches. He spoke little and listened much. When others argued, he watched. When others rushed, he waited. And when he moved at the right time. Elias had ended 3 battles that humans were supposed to lose. Not by force, but by timing. By cutting supply lines. By forcing alien commanders to turn on each other without realizing it, aliens began to notice him. Not as a threat at first. More as a problem than as a danger. The coalition adjusted its plans. They avoided traps. They hardened routes. They increased patrols. Elias adjusted to he learned alien culture, their pride, their need to appear strong. He learned which species hated which, and which alliances were held together by fear instead of trust. He shared what he learned, quietly, carefully. The war entered a new phase. Human fleets stopped trying to win battles. They tried to survive. They pulled back from borders. They abandoned worlds that could not be held to the alien coalition. It looked like defeat. To Elias, it was preparation. Human command argued with him at first. Retreat felt like surrender. Giving up worlds felt like failure. But Elias showed them numbers, timelines, consequences. Slowly, they listened. Then the aliens made their greatest mistake. They believed the war could end. By removing one man, they planned it carefully. A trap. A false weakness. A system left open on purpose. Elias saw it, and he walked into it anyway. He ordered no rescue. No last stand. He sent one message before capture. Begin phase silence. Human fleets obeyed. The aliens captured him without resistance. They were shocked by how easy it was. No ambush, no hidden fleet, no self-destruct. They searched him again and again. They found nothing. No weapons, no devices, no codes. They believed they had one. What they did not understand was that Elias had already done what he needed to do while he sat in a holding cell. Unarmed and watched, the human war machine went quiet. No signals, no attacks, no movements that made sense. Trade routes shifted. Civilian traffic changed patterns. Human colonies shut down. Communication arrays for repairs. Data became hard to track. To alien commanders, it looked like collapse. To Elias, it was pressure. Coalition allies began to argue. Some wanted to press the attack. Others wanted to secure gains. Supply demands rose. Trust fell. Elias waited. He listened to guards talk. He learned who resented whom, who feared losing control, who feared losing face. By the time he was brought into the war room, Elias already knew how it would end. Not with explosions, not with hero charges, but with silence. The kind that comes before something breaks. The aliens thought they had taken away humanity's last weapon. They did not understand that Elias himself had never been the weapon. He had only been the hand that pointed, and now even unarmed. The war was already slipping away from them. Elias Ward knew. The moment when the trap became clear, it was not a sudden discovery. It was a quiet one. The signals were too clean. The enemy patrols were placed just a little too perfectly. The system ahead looked weak, but not careless. To most commanders, it would have looked like a chance to strike. To Elias, it looked like an invitation. He did not warn the fleet away. He ordered them to slow. Human ships drifted at the edge of the system. Engines low, weapons cold. Officers waited for the command to attack. Some were eager. Others were afraid. All of them trusted Elias. Elias stood on the bridge of his ship, his hands behind his back, staring at the stars. "They want me," he said quietly. No one argued. The alien coalition had learned his name. They had tracked his movements. They believed that if they removed him, human resistance would collapse. It was a simple idea. A dangerous one. Elias turned to his officers. "If they take me," he said, "do not try to get me back." A murmur spread across the bridge. "They will parade it," he continued. "They will declare victory. They will demand surrender." Paused. "You will give them silence." That was the hardest order. Humans had fought this war by reacting, by answering attacks with attacks. Silence felt wrong, like weakness, but Elias understood something the aliens did not. Silence makes powerful people afraid. The trap closed quickly. Alien ships appeared from hidden positions. Warp lanes collapsed. Human escorts were disabled, not destroyed. Boarding craft locked onto Elias's command ship. Elias did not resist. When alien soldiers entered the bridge, weapons raised, he stood still. "I am Elias Ward," he said. "You came for me." The soldiers hesitated. They had expected fear, rage, a last stand. They received none of it. Elias was taken. His ship was released. Drifting and empty, allowed to return home. That was no kindness. It was a message. The holding cell was small and clean. White walls. A single light. No shadows. No sound except the hum of the station. Elias sat on the floor. Back against the wall, hands resting on his knees. He did not sleep. He listened. Guards changed shifts. Different species. Different accents. Different rhythms. Some were bored. Some were proud. Some were nervous. Elias counted them all. They searched him again and again. Scans passed over his body. His clothes were cut away. His boots were destroyed. His hair was scanned, his teeth checked. They found nothing that made them uneasy. "You carry no weapons," one guard said during a shift change. Strange for a human commander. Elias looked up. "I am not a weapon," he said. The guard did not reply. Days passed. No news came to Elias, but he did not need it. The silence outside was louder than any report. He knew human fleets were withdrawing. He knew orders were being followed. The coalition did not like that, commanders argued. Elias heard raised voices through walls not meant to carry sound. Words like delay, risk, and resource strain appeared often. One night, guard lingered longer than usual. They say you broke 3 armadas, the guard said. Without direct battle, Elias shrugged slightly. They broke themselves. The guard stared at him, then left without another word. When Elias was finally moved, it was without warning, restraints locked around his wrists. Not for safety. For theater, he was marched through wide halls where alien officers watched from balconies and doorways. Some looked curious, some angry, some uncertain. They wanted him small. They failed. When the war room doors opened, Elias felt the weight of it immediately. Power pressed down from every direction. Raised seats. Armed guards. Eyes everywhere. He was placed in the center. Everything was taken from him. That was the point, Elias stood still. He felt the shift when he spoke. When his questions landed, when silence spread. Now, as the room waited, Elias knew the most dangerous moment had arrived. Not the capture, not the threat of death, but the moment when the enemy begins to doubt itself. He watched the lead commander carefully, watched the slight tension in his posture, watched how other commanders looked to him before. Speaking, hierarchy, fear, pride. Elias had mapped it all. The commander believed control came from strength. Elias knew control came from belief, and belief was already cracking. He lifted his eyes again, meeting the commander's gaze. "I have another question," Elias said calmly. The room said, because questions they were learning were how humans fought without weapons. And Elias had many questions left, far beyond the war room. Human space remained quiet, too. Quiet, the kind of quiet that makes even victors listen for something they cannot hear. The war had not ended yet, but it had passed the point where the aliens could stop it. The war room no longer felt certain. The lights were the same. The guards still held weapons. The commanders still sat above the floor. Yet something invisible had shifted. Like a crack spreading through stone, Elias felt it. He stood in the center, hands empty, posture calm. He did not rush his words. He did not raise his voice. He waited until the silence became uncomfortable. Then he spoke again. "I asked about your supply routes," Elias said. "Now I want to ask about your allies." Several commanders stiffened. The lead commander narrowed his eyes. "You speak too freely for a prisoner." "Speak because you are listening," Elias replied. A low murmur moved through the room. Elias turned slightly, addressing the circle instead of the leader alone. "This coalition was built fast," he said. "Too fast. Fear brought you together, not trust." "That is a lie," one commander snapped. Elias nodded. "Then answer me this. If trust holds you together, why are your fleets no longer sharing full data?" The room went quiet. One commander looked sharply at another. A third folded his arms. The guards shifted their stance, uncertain. "You accuse us without proof," the lead commander said. Elias smiled faintly. "Proof is not required when behavior speaks." He took a slow step forward. No guard stopped him. "That alone said enough. The Kethari rerouted fuel shipments 3 cycles ago," Elias continued. "They said it was an efficiency upgrade. The Vorin believed them. But the routes now pass through Kethara-controlled space." A sharp intake of breath came from the Vorin side of the circle. Elias kept his tone even. "That is not preparation for victory. That is preparation for survival." The lead commander rose slightly from his seat. "Enough." But Elias did not stop. "The 5th Armada has delayed reinforcement orders twice," he said. "Once is caution. Twice is doubt." The murmurs grew louder. "You fear losing control?" Elias said calmly. "You fear that when the war ends, you will turn on each other." "That is human thinking," a commander hissed. "We are not like you." Elias looked at him. "You are worse," he said softly. Because you pretend you are better. The insult landed hard. Guards tightened their grip on their weapons, but no order was given. Elias raised his head slightly. You think this war ends with my death? He said. But wars do not end when enemies fall. They end when systems fail. He paused, letting the words sink in. Human fleets are silent, Elias continued. Not destroyed. Silent. That means no predictable targets. No reactions. No patterns. Several commanders exchanged looks. You cannot fight what does not answer, Elias said. The lead commander slammed one clawed hand against the arm of his chair. You believe you have already won? No, Elias replied. I believe you already lost control. The room erupted into argument. Voices rose. Accusations flew. One commander demanded confirmation of supply data. Another questioned patrol delays. Old disputes surfaced, long buried under the pressure of war. Elias stood quietly as it happened. This was not chaos. This was release. The lead commander shouted for silence. But it came slowly. Too slowly when quiet finally returned, Elias spoke again. You took my weapons, he said. You took my fleet. You took my armor? He lifted his empty hands. But you gave me time. The words cut deeper than any threat. Time to watch, Elias continued. Time to listen. Time to understand who among you believes in unity and who believes only in survival. A commander stood. This is manipulation, yes, Elias said simply. War always is. The commander hesitated, then sat. Elias turned back to the leader. You brought me here to end the war your way. To force a symbol of surrender. He met the commander's eyes. But symbols cut both ways. The commander studied him in silence. For the first time, uncertainty showed clearly. What do you want? The commander asked. The room held its breath. Elias did not answer right away. I want the war to end, he said finally. Not in victory. Not in defeat. In balance. Laughter broke out from one side of the circle. Balance? After all this? Yes, Elias said. Because if you push further, you will fracture. And when you fracture, you will bleed from every edge. Let that image settle. Humanity will survive that, Elias said. We are used to broken worlds. The laughter stopped. You are threatening us without power, the commander said. Elias shook his head. I am warning you with knowledge. Another silence fell. Some commanders looked away. Others stared at the floor. A few watched Elias as if seeing him for the first time. Not as a prisoner, but as a mirror. Far from the war room, coalition fleets waited for orders that did not come. Supply ships delayed launches. Command nodes requested confirmations that were never fully answered. The war was slowing. Not because of weakness, but because doubt spreads faster than fear. Elias felt it in the room. In the pauses. In the breathing. In the way no one rushed to end him, they had taken away. Every weapon, yet the most dangerous force in the room was the truth he had placed between them, and once spoken, it could not be taken back. The war room no longer felt certain. The lights were the same. The guards still held weapons. The commanders still sat above the floor. Yet something invisible had shifted, like a crack spreading through stone. Elias felt it. He stood in the center, hands empty, posture calm. He did not rush his words. He did not raise his voice. He waited until the silence became uncomfortable. Then he spoke again. The war did not end with a command. It began to end with hesitation. In the war room, the alien commanders sat in uneasy silence. The arguments had faded, but the damage remained. Doubt hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Elias stood where he had always stood unarmed, still watching. The lead commander finally spoke. His voice was slower now, careful. You speak as if you control events beyond this room, he said. I do not control them, Elias replied. I understand them. He turned his head slightly, as if listening to something far away. Right now, he continued, your fleets are waiting. Not advancing. Not retreating. Waiting for clarity. Several commanders stiffened. You have always punished hesitation, Elias said. You call it weakness. But today, hesitation is the only honest choice you have left. One commander leaned forward. You claim our war machine is failing, Elias nodded. Because war machines require motion. Yours has begun to stall. Took a slow breath. Human space is quiet, Elias said. No attacks. No desperate defenses. No signals to intercept. That silence forces you to guess. The lead commander's claws tapped against his chair. Guessing costs fuel, Elias continued. Guessing delays supply. Guessing creates arguments. Commander from the outer ring spoke sharply. We still hold more worlds than you. Yes, Elias agreed. And each one needs protection. He turned to face her fully. Your fleets are spread thin. Every world you occupy weakens another. No one argued. Elias pressed on. Your coalition was built to crush resistance, he said, not to manage peace. You have no shared plan for what comes next. That was the deepest cut. Peace was never discussed. The lead commander rose from his seat and descended one step. He did not come closer. But he no longer looked down. You believe this ends without blood? Said. I believe it ends with less blood, Elias replied. He lifted his eyes. You cannot win cleanly. You can only lose slowly. Long silence followed. Far from the room, events unfolded exactly as Elias had predicted. A fuel convoy delayed departure after conflicting orders. A patrol rerouted to protect a world that no longer mattered. A supply request was denied not from hostility, but confusion. Small things. But wars are made of small things. Commanders sent messages asking for clarification. Clarification came late, or not at all. Trust weakened. Old rivalries resurfaced. One coalition species quietly pulled ships back to guard its own borders. Another increased internal security. Fearing betrayal, none of this reached the war room directly, but Elias could see it in their faces. They were losing the sense of control they had built their power on. You took me to end the war, Elias said, but killing me will not restart it. He stepped forward again. This time, a guard moved, then stopped. No order came. If I die, Elias continued, I become proof that humans are right to resist. I become a symbol you cannot erase. The lead commander's eyes narrowed. And if we release you? Elias met his gaze. Then you gain time. That answer surprised them. Time to reorganize, Elias said. Time to pull back without collapse. Time to claim stability instead of victory, a commander scoffed. You expect us to trust you? No, Elias said. I expect you to trust yourselves. Another silence. Finally, a question came from the far end of the circle. If the war ends, the commander asked, what does humanity do? Elias answered without hesitation. We rebuild, he said. We remember, and we prepare quietly. The honesty unsettled them. You will not forget this, the lead commander said. No, Elias agreed. But we will not chase revenge either. Not today. The war room felt smaller now, less like a place of judgment, more like a place of decision. The lead commander straightened. You ask us to choose uncertainty over dominance. I ask you to choose survival over pride, Elias said. The words hung there. Outside the room, orders were already being rewritten. Not officially, not loudly, but carefully. A patrol recalled for maintenance. Supply route temporarily adjusted. A battle postponed pending review. The war was no longer advancing, and without advance, it began to bleed strength. The lead commander turned away from Elias and looked at the circle. This council will recess, he said. Several commanders looked. Shocked. Escort the human, the commander added. Return him to holding. Guards approached Elias. This time they did not grab him. They gestured. Elias followed, as the doors closed behind him. The war room erupted again, not in anger, but in urgent, quiet debate. Elias was led back through the halls. The same halls, the same watchers, but the looks had changed. Some were afraid, some were thoughtful. None were laughing. Back in the holding cell, Elias sat down slowly. He did not smile. This was the most dangerous part, because wars do not end in moments. They end when enough people decide to stop pushing. And the push had finally begun to fade. They had taken away every weapon. Now, the war itself was being taken apart, one doubt at a time. The holding cell felt different now. The walls were the same white. The light still hummed softly above. The door was still sealed. Yet the air no longer carried the sharp edge of waiting for death. Instead, it held something heavier: uncertainty. Elias sat on the floor, back against the wall, eyes closed. He listened not to sounds, but to absence. No alarms, no raised voices, no hurried footsteps. Silence again. But this silence was not fear. It was calculation. Hours passed, maybe more. Time moved strangely in the station. Elias measured it by the guard shifts. They changed slower now, less rigid. One guard paused longer than required before moving on. "You really think it's over?" the guard asked quietly. Elias opened his eyes. "I think it is changing," he said. The guard frowned. "They haven't decided yet." "They don't need to," Elias replied. "Momentum has." The guard did not understand, but he felt it. He nodded and walked away. Elsewhere in the station, meetings overlapped. Councils called sub-councils. Orders were questioned. Reports contradicted each other. The coalition had been built to act, not to reflect. Reflection slowed everything. Fleet commanders requested clear direction. They received cautious responses. No one wanted to be responsible for the wrong move. In human space, the silence continued. No signals returned. No counterattacks followed. Human worlds locked down. Civilian traffic rerouted. Borders hardened quietly. It did not look like fear. It looked like patience. Back in the war room, the lead commander stood alone at the center. The raised seats were empty. The lights dimmed slightly, responding to lower energy demand. He replayed Elias's words in his mind. War machines require motion. He hated how true it felt. A message arrived from the outer fleets. One of the coalition species had recalled its forces temporarily. Another demanded stronger guarantees before committing further ships. The coalition was not breaking, but it was bending. And bending takes effort to maintain. The commander ordered Elias brought back. This time, no restraints were used. When Elias entered the war room again, only 5 commanders remained. The rest were unavailable. That alone said enough. The lead commander spoke first. "You have damaged the coalition." Elias shook his head. "I revealed it. You forced our hand." "No," Elias said calmly. "I removed your illusion of choice." The commander studied him. "If we end the war now, we appear weak." Elias met his gaze. "If you continue, you appear afraid." That struck harder. The commander looked away. "You will be released," he said. "Return to your people." A ripple of reaction moved through the remaining commanders. "But hear this," the commander added. "We will remember." "So will we," Elias said. The release was not public. No announcement. No ceremony. Elias was placed aboard a small transport and sent toward the edge of coalition space. No escort followed. No attack came. When the ship crossed into neutral territory, a human vessel appeared. Quiet, unmarked, waiting. Elias stepped aboard. No cheers greeted him. No applause. Only tired faces and steady eyes. "You did it," one officer said softly. Elias shook his head. "We did," he replied. By stopping, he sent one final message to Human Command. Begin phase rebuild. The war did not end with a treaty. It ended with withdrawal. Coalition fleets pulled back for reorganization. Occupied worlds were handed over to local governance temporarily. Supply chains shortened. Borders stabilized. No one declared victory. That made it real. On human worlds, people slowly returned to lighted streets and open skies. Reconstruction began quietly. Memorials were built without speeches. Elias did not stay in command. He declined promotions, declined titles. He accepted one role only, advisor. He sat in rooms like the war room once was, but smaller, quieter, with fewer weapons. He taught others what he had learned. That power is loud until it fails. That silence can be a weapon if used with care. Across the galaxy, alien academies updated their doctrine. New lessons were added. Do not remove the enemy's weapons and assume safety. Understand how they think before deciding how to fight. Elias watched the stars from a quiet station window months later. The galaxy was not at peace, but it was breathing. They had taken away every weapon, and learned far too late that the most dangerous ones were never held in the hand. They were held in the mind, years past. But the war did not fade the way most wars did. It did not live in victory songs or ruined worlds alone. It lived in quiet rules, new habits, careful pauses before decisions were made. The galaxy remembered. On human worlds, cities were rebuilt without grand names. Streets were repaired. Homes returned. Children learned history not as glory, but as warning. Humanity spoke of the war rarely, and when they did, they spoke of cost, not triumph. Elias Ward did not become a hero in public stories. He refused statues, refused titles. When asked about the war, he spoke little. He said only, "It ended when people stopped pushing." It confused many, but those who had been there understood. Across coalition space, military doctrine changed. Training halls were redesigned. Command simulations no longer ended when the enemy lost weapons. Instead, they began with that moment. Cadets were taught a new lesson. An unarmed enemy is not a harmless. Enemy alien instructors showed recordings of the war room. Not the arguments, not the threats. They focused on the pauses. The moments when no one spoke. The moments when command authority hesitated. Those pauses were studied more than any. Battle 1 instructor ended every lesson the same way. "If the human is calm," he said. "You are already late." Trade slowly resumed between worlds. Not openly at first. Small exchanges. Careful routes. Neutral stations became places of quiet meeting instead of tension. Trust returned in pieces, not promises. Humanity did not rush expansion. They did not push borders. They focused inward, repairing systems, strengthening communication. Preparing quietly, that frightened some species more than fleets ever had, because preparation, without threat, feels unpredictable. Elias continued his work as an advisor. He met with young commanders, human and alien alike. He spoke about mistakes, about pride, about how fear makes people cling to control until it breaks. He never spoke about himself. Once, a young officer asked him, "How did you end a war alone?" Elias shook his head. "I didn't," he said. "I showed them they were already alone." The galaxy entered a new age, not peace. Caution borders were watched. Fleets existed, but they moved with care. No one rushed to declare dominance. The memory of the war lingered like a scar that ached before storms. In alien councils, new protocols were written. Never force a public surrender. Never rely on pride to hold alliances. Never assume silence means defeat. Those rules were born from one unarmed human in a room designed for fear. On the anniversary of the war's end, there were no celebrations. Humanity observed a day of stillness. No broadcasts. No speeches, just quiet. Because that was how the war had truly ended. In the far reaches of space, a new species rose. Young, curious, watching the galaxy with hopeful eyes. Their first contact teams. Studied history before making contact. One line appeared in every briefing. If humans stop fighting, ask why. Because the galaxy had learned that the most dangerous moment was not when weapons were raised. It was when they were put down by choice. Elias Ward spent his final years on a small station. Near a neutral star, he walked its halls, watched ships come and go, spoke to travelers who never knew his name. He liked it that way. One evening, stood by a window as a convoy passed through human and alien ships together. Not allies. Not enemies, neighbors. A guard, young and curious, stood nearby. "Do you think war will return?" the guard asked. Elias thought for a long moment. "Yes," he said. "Someday," guard frowned. "Then what was the point?" Elias smiled gently. "The point," he said, "is that next time, they will hesitate first." The guard did not fully understand, but the galaxy did. They had taken away every weapon and learned that some wars end not with fire, but with the decision to stop holding the blade.